The biggest campervan mistake isn't buying a bad van. It's buying the right van at the wrong price, for the wrong lifestyle, with the wrong financial plan, and not realizing it until you're deep in it, parked in a driveway, wondering what went wrong. That happens to smart people, prepared people, people who did their research. It happens because almost every piece of campervan content online is created by people who want you to love the lifestyle, not by people whose job is to protect your money. This video is different. By the end, you'll know exactly how campervan life is actually funded by real buyers. You'll know which van choices are financially smart and which ones are confidence purchases disguised as investments. And you'll have a framework that most people spend years of regret learning on their own. Real numbers, real trade-offs, and some takes you won't hear anywhere else because most channels can't afford to say them. The lie that's costing buyers thousands. Let's kill the myth first. Campervan life is not cheap. It can be cheaper than your current life, but that's a completely different statement, and conflating the two is exactly how people blow their savings in year one. You've seen the content. We live on $900 a month. We quit our jobs and never looked back. What you don't see is that the van was partially brand-sponsored. The $900 number doesn't include the Starlink bill, and one of them has a freelance client paying $4,000 a month off-camera. Something is always missing from that number. Here's what the real cost structure looks like. A livable van typically costs anywhere from $25,000 to $100,000, depending on age, mileage, and conversion quality. In year one, most buyers find themselves spending a significant amount more, often somewhere between $5,000 and $18,000 on repairs, upgrades, and things they didn't know they needed. That range varies widely depending on the van's condition and how disciplined you are, but the point is, budget for it. U.S. campground fees for full-timers who can't always access free land can realistically run $900 to $1,800 a month, depending heavily on where you're traveling and how often you're in paid sites. American health insurance for under 65s, not covered by an employer, more on this shortly, adds several $100s a month on top of that. Add fuel, connectivity, food, and a maintenance reserve, and a realistic operating budget for most full-time van lifers in the U.S. lands somewhere between $2,000 and $3,500 a month. That might still be cheaper than your current rent plus expenses, but it is not $900 a month, and the people who plan around that number are the ones selling their vans at a loss 18 months in. There are exactly 3 financial models that make campervan life actually work. If you're not in one of them, build into one before you buy anything. Model 1, the true minimalist. Van fully paid off, no debt, free camping is the primary strategy. This works for a small number of people and requires a lifestyle most buyers aren't actually prepared for. Model 2, income that travels with you. Remote work, a pension, Social Security, rental income. The van isn't replacing your income, it's replacing a fixed housing payment with something more flexible and often cheaper. This is the model that works at scale for most people. Model 3, the strategic downshift. You use the van for a defined window, 2, 3, 5 years, while investments grow untouched before reevaluating. This is especially powerful for early retirees bridging the gap before Social Security or a state pension kicks in. It's the underused model and the smartest one at the table. If you can't identify your model, that's not a van problem, that's a financial plan problem, and no van is going to fix it. And that expensive mistake, not even the one that blindsides most buyers, the one that really wrecks people comes next. New versus used, where $20,000 quietly disappears. Most people ask, new van or used van? That's the wrong question. The right question is, what is my true total cost of ownership over 3 years? When you run that math honestly, the answer surprises almost everyone. A brand new, professionally converted Mercedes-Benz Sprinter 144 high roof from a U.S. builder, Storyteller Overland, outside van, Van Doit, runs $90,000 to $160,000. In Europe, an equivalent build from Wellhouse, Gerba, or a premium German converter is 80,000 to 150,000 euros. These vans are excellent. They are also not a smart first purchase for most buyers. Here's why. The first year of van life teaches you more about your real preferences than any amount of research. The bed angle you were sure you wanted? Wrong. The kitchen layout you planned around doesn't fit how you actually cook. The solar that looked oversized, never enough during a gray November in Scotland or Oregon. Buying a $120,000 conversion before you know what you need is how you end up reselling it for $82,000 2 years later. For most first-time buyers, a premium Sprinter conversion is a confidence purchase, not a smart purchase. Now look at the other extreme, a used Sprinter with 160,000 miles and a DIY build at $22,000. Sometimes that's the right call, but here's the risk. A diesel Sprinter with its original turbo, its original injectors, and an EGR valve that's never been touched is a time bomb. A single repair visit in the US can run $4,000 to $9,000. When your van is also your home, that's not a repair bill, it's a housing crisis. The move that works for the majority of first-time buyers is the middle path. A 3 to 5-year-old van, under 80,000 miles in the US or 100,000 kilometers in Europe, with a clean service history and either a factory conversion or a documented professional build. Mechanical confidence, known history, a van you can afford to repair. In the US, the Ford Transit 350 high roof is chronically undervalued relative to the Sprinter. More interior widths, a significantly cheaper repair profile, parts available in rural Wyoming at 6 p.m. on a Friday. The Ram ProMaster is even wider and even cheaper, and its European sibling, the Fiat Ducato, is the backbone of the European conversion market for exactly the same reason. It's roomy, repairable, and replaceable. In Europe specifically, the Fiat Ducato, Peugeot Boxer, and Citroën Relais, all the same platform, represent exceptional value in the conversion market. Professional conversion infrastructure for these vans across France, Germany, and the Benelux is deep and well-priced. You can get quality work done, find parts easily, and resell in any EU country. They are the transit equivalent of the European van market, and they are consistently overlooked by buyers chasing the WV badge. Buy mechanical confidence, buy documentation, then personalize from there. Now here's where the just buy a used van advice breaks down, because there's a whole category of costs most used van buyers never budget for, and it quietly turns a smart purchase into a drain. The cost ladder that breaks van budgets. These are the numbers that don't appear in van life videos, they appear in van life regret. Level 1, insurance, and it can void your coverage without you knowing it. In the US, a vehicle that's also your primary residence cannot be covered under standard auto insurance. That policy can be voided the moment you're living in the vehicle full-time. You need specialty coverage, providers like National General or Progressive with a specific RV rider. Depending on your van's value and your driving record, you're typically looking at somewhere in the range of $100 to $250 a month. Verify this for your specific situation, because it varies. Get this wrong, and a single accident leaves you with nothing. In the UK and Europe, insuring a converted van as a leisure vehicle versus a commercial vehicle changes your MOT classification, your road tax category, and your coverage scope. The wrong classification doesn't just affect your premium, it affects whether your claim is paid at all. Level 2, health coverage, the cost that forces people off the road. For US buyers under 65, this can be your single largest monthly expense. ACA marketplace plans vary significantly by state, income level, and the tier of coverage you choose, but for a healthy individual in their late 50s, several $100s a month before subsidies is a realistic starting point, and it can run considerably higher. A couple roughly doubles it. "I'll sort it later" is how people end up back in a fixed address within a year, not because van life didn't work, because they ran out of health coverage options. European buyers crossing EU member states, your EHIC or GHIC card covers emergency treatment, not routine care, not dental, not medical evacuation. Budget for supplemental travel health insurance, it's not optional.
Level 3, the maintenance reserve, the fund most buyers skip and then desperately need. Industry standard is 1 to 2% of vehicle value per year, untouched in a separate account. On a $55,000 van, that's $550 to $1,100 a year. Most buyers don't set it aside, then a water pump fails in month 14 and they make decisions they regret.
Level 4. The upgrade spiral. The trap that quietly turns a $60,000 van into an $80,000 one. You buy the van, the solar feels slightly undersized, you add a battery. The diesel heater isn't quite right, you swap it. Signal is poor in the mountains, cell booster added. You start to want a rear camera, a better awning, a composting toilet upgrade. Every decision felt reasonable. Collectively, they can easily add $5,000 to $10,000 or more in year one, sometimes without you even noticing it happening. The discipline that separates smart buyers from buyers with regret. Set a hard upgrade cap for the first 12 months. You cannot know what you actually need until you've lived in the van through different seasons and different terrain. The person who bought a van in July and immediately added a massive solar array has never tried to charge it through a gray November in northern England or the Pacific Northwest. Wait, live in it, then upgrade with precision. Now the section where I say something that gets pushback every time, but I'll stand behind every word of it. The DIY conversion myth. DIY campervan conversions are almost never as cheap as people claim, and for a significant portion of buyers, they are the wrong choice. The honest math, a genuinely good DIY conversion costs $8,000 to $16,000 in materials and 300 to 600 hours of labor. At a conservative $30 an hour, 400 hours is $12,000 in labor you didn't charge yourself for. Add that to materials and your cheap DIY build costs $20,000 to $28,000 in real terms, and you still have slightly uneven paneling, a bed frame that creaks, and a 12V system you're not fully confident in. For retirees specifically, I want to be direct. If you're in your late 50s or 60s and your body doesn't love kneeling on concrete with a drill for 8-hour stretches, DIY is a quality of life decision, not just a money decision. The romance of building your own van is real. Living in the mistakes afterward is not. DIY is overrated for retirees unless they genuinely enjoy the build process and have real construction or electrical skills. If you're treating the build as a means to an end, skip it. The smarter middle path is a stage 1 or shell conversion from a professional builder. In the US, companies like Campervans and Humble Road offer professionally fabricated shells, insulated walls, proper electrical runs, structural roof systems. In the UK and Europe, Remo, Danbury, and various Ducato platform specialists offer equivalent base builds. You get professional bones. You finish the interior yourself. You avoid the most expensive part of DIY, the mistakes you don't know you're making. The 3 people who actually make van life work and the one who usually doesn't. 3 types of buyers. Let's move through them quickly. Figure out which one you are. Buyer type 1, the smart retiree. 62 years old, home sold or paid off, Social Security within 2 to 3 years, savings of $300,000 to $500,000, enough to be patient, not enormous. Doesn't want to drain retirement funds during the bridge years before benefits start. Buys a 4-year-old Ford Transit 350 high roof, low mileage, documented history, partial professional conversion. Total cost, around $48,000 paid in cash. No monthly payment. Operating costs, mixed camping, fuel, food, insurance, health coverage, land around $2,100 a month. Less than a 1-bedroom apartment in almost any mid-tier city in US or Western Europe. The financial win isn't that van life is free. The win is that savings are untouched for 2 to 3 years. That's the move most people miss. Buyer type 2, the remote worker.
34 years old, $70,000 in a fully remote role, currently paying $1,800 in rent in a city they don't love. This model works, but only if the van actually replaces the housing cost. If you keep a storage unit, maintain a home base with ongoing rent, and also fund van life on top of that, you've added an expense, not replaced one. Remote worker van life requires a genuine commitment to vehicle as housing. If your van doesn't replace a major expense, it's not an affordability strategy. It's a travel hobby with a high overhead. Buyer type 3, the family trap. 2 adults, 2 kids, 1 dog. Full-time family van life. This fails more often than it succeeds, not because families can't do it, some do it brilliantly, but because the van choice is usually wrong. A standard Sprinter 144 is not a full-time family van. A 170 extended high roof is borderline. The families who make it work long-term either have a purpose-built 170 extended layout or, and this is the underrated option, they use a truck and a small camper trailer. The trailer is cheaper to build, can be unhitched so you drive a normal vehicle, and can be replaced independently of the tow vehicle. For families, the hybrid tow model deserves far more consideration than it gets in this space. 5 questions before you buy anything. Answer these honestly. If you can't, you're not ready to buy, and that's fine. Not ready now beats $35,000 deep and stuck. 1. What is your specific income source on the road? Not a plan to find one, not a side project you might develop, a current, real number from a named source. If you can't name it, you don't have it. 2. What is your liquid savings after the van purchase? Buying the van should leave you with less than 6 months of operating expenses in cash. The van is not the emergency fund. 3. Where are you primarily going? U.S. buyers accessing BLM and national forest land have a genuine budget advantage, tens of millions of acres of free camping. European buyers face a different reality. Wild camping outside Scotland is heavily restricted in the UK, and if you're driving a pre-Euro 6 diesel van into the low-emission zones of London, Paris, Madrid, Amsterdam, or Berlin, you're facing daily access charges or outright bans. This isn't theoretical. It's enforced, expanding, and getting stricter. Know your van's emissions classification before you buy. What is your exit plan? Professional conversions from documented builders hold their value. DIY builds from YouTube tutorials do not. Buy or build for resale value even if you never intend to sell. 5. Have you actually slept in a van for 2 weeks, not a weekend? Rent one. Outdoorsy, Campervan North America, and similar platforms rent real converted Sprinters and Transits. Spend $2,500 to $3,000 on a genuine 2-week trial, cooking every meal, managing gray water, parking in a city, running on solar only. That $2,000 could save you $40,000 in the wrong purchase. Here's where I land, and I'm going to be direct. If you need financing to afford a luxury professional conversion for occasional weekend trips, that is a hobby purchase. There's nothing wrong with hobby purchases, but don't tell yourself it's a lifestyle strategy because that's how you end up owning a depreciating $90,000 asset you use 11 weekends a year. For people who've done the preparation, clear income, real savings buffer, honest operating budget, van life can be one of the most financially intelligent structures available. Your housing overhead becomes variable and controllable, your lifestyle expands, and if you buy the right vehicle at the right price, you hold an asset with reasonable resale value. The gap between people who thrive in van life for years and people who tap out at 18 months almost always comes down to one thing. The ones who thrive built the financial plan first and found a van that fit it afterwards. The van is not the lifestyle. The financial structure is the lifestyle. The van is just where you sleep. Start with the money, build the plan, then find the van. One question for the comments. What's the single financial concern that's actually stopping you from making this move? Not the practical stuff, not the shower question, the real money fear. I'm building future videos around what's genuinely keeping people stuck, and I'd rather answer the question you're actually asking. Drop it below.